The film begins in a snow-covered region where two scientists, Julia and her partner, are conducting experiments. They are placing bombs in icy waters to create small explosions for their research. Just then, a call comes from the headquarters, warning them that a massive storm is approaching their location. They are told to leave immediately. Meanwhile, a Russian submarine passing nearby also detects strange and loud underwater noises. The crew can't understand what it is, but soon, something even stranger happens. The waves of the sea begin rising from the bottom upward, as if something massive is moving deep under the water. Julia's scanners start acting weird, and the snow around her camp begins to crack rapidly. She tries to collect her research papers before leaving, but the storm is already closing in. Her partner grabs her hand and pulls her toward their snow vehicle. But before they can escape, the ground collapses beneath them, and they are thrown into chaos. At the same time, the Russian submarine captain realizes that the sound they heard is coming from a living creature. Before they can escape, something enormous collides with their submarine. Back on the surface, Julia and her partner try to drive their snow vehicle away, but the snow keeps breaking ahead of them. The vehicle crashes violently, bursts into flames, and sinks into the freezing water. Their entire research camp is destroyed by the explosions, and most of the scientists die in the chaos. Under the sea, the submarine shakes violently as the massive creature attacks. The crew struggles to stay in their seats as alarms blare and equipment breaks apart. In desperation, they fire their weapons, and through the flash of the explosion, huge tentacles appear from the darkness. A crew member is thrown against the glass and knocked unconscious. Before the submarine is completely destroyed, an officer manages to send an emergency message. Soon, news of the missing submarine reaches the Russian Navy headquarters. Because the submarine carried important weapons, the Navy immediately launches a rescue mission. The mission is led by Victor, a scientist and naval officer, and also the brother of the missing submarine's captain. Victor's mother is deeply worried that he might meet the same fate as his brother. Before he leaves, she gives him his late father's watch and says, "This will protect you. Wherever your father is, he'll be watching over you." That night, Victor arrives at the dock and meets his father's old friend, a senior officer who is also joining the mission. Victor feels uneasy. The old man's age makes him fear something might go wrong. Soon, Victor and his crew board their submarine and head toward the location where the first submarine disappeared. Meanwhile, Julia and her partner are wandering in the middle of a snowstorm. They try to send a signal, but Julia begins losing focus and nearly falls into a deep pit. Her partner saves her just in time. Then, Julia's device suddenly catches a signal. It's coming from an oil rig nearby. She tries calling for help, but the wind and storm make the sound almost impossible to understand. The people on the rig hear only noise, and then the signal cuts off. Exhausted and hopeless, Julia's partner fires a flare gun into the sky and sits down in despair. The next morning, Victor's submarine reaches the area where the missing vessel vanished. After detailed preparations, the crew dives deep underwater. In a private room, Victor and the senior officers study a classified report about the incident. Whatever they read shocks everyone, but the details remain secret for now. Rumors soon spread among the crew about the mysterious disappearance of the old submarine. Back in the snow, Julia and her partner find a buoy half buried in ice, a device that sends out signals to nearby ships. This gives them new hope that someone might find them. They decide to stop wandering and stay near the buoy. Victor's submarine later detects this same buoy signal and begins heading toward it. As they descend deeper, a large group of whales begins swimming around them. The crew carefully tries to navigate without hurting them. But when one whale accidentally collides with the propeller, a senior officer orders them to activate the sonar. Victor hesitates, warning that sonar waves could attract unwanted attention, but the officer insists. Once the sonar is activated, the whales move away, but a few moments later they all suddenly return, behaving strangely. Then, the seafloor itself begins to rise, and from the darkness, giant tentacles emerge, killing the whales with a single strike. The crew is terrified. Their sonar shows a massive object moving rapidly toward them. The senior officer thinks it might be an enemy submarine and orders them to fire, but Victor disagrees and tells the crew to hide. The submarine dives into an ice-covered trench, and takes cover. The creature follows them for a while, but then disappears. As the crew inspects the damage, the senior officer angrily scolds Victor for taking unnecessary risks. They have no choice but to surface for repairs. At the same time, Julia and her partner are hiding under rocks, trying to stay warm. Suddenly, the sound of breaking ice echoes around them, and Victor's submarine emerges through the frozen surface. The crew spots Julia and her companion and rushes to rescue them. However, the senior officer suspects that they might be foreign spies, so he orders that they be left with some food and abandoned. But Victor feels sympathy for them and allows them aboard. Once repairs are done, the submarine dives again and continues its search near the buoy. After a medical checkup, Julia and her partner are given food. Victor shows them a map and asks where their camp was and whether they saw anything unusual. Julia tells him about the huge explosions they witnessed. Victor realizes that those explosions could have caused his brother's submarine to sink. The crew begins planning their next move, but the senior officer insists they should turn back, warning that the strange radar signal could mean the enemy is still out there. He says that if they're attacked again, it might be impossible to send another emergency message. But Victor, desperate to find his brother, orders the submarine toward Julia's old camp. The senior officer warns him that he's already made 2 bad decisions, and a third could doom them all. Victor tells his team that if anyone is still alive in the missing submarine, they might be running out of oxygen, so they must hurry. Suddenly, Julia hears a strange sound and becomes nervous, but her partner reassures her that it's just the sonar echo from the search. Then, the radar begins showing the same massive object again. The monster is back. Victor orders the submarine to find a hiding spot, but there's none nearby. Instead, they head toward the oil rig, hoping to use it as cover. But just as they approach the rig, the workers there spot something terrifying. Enormous tentacles rising from the sea. Sirens go off everywhere as the Kraken attacks. The rig's buildings crumble, explosions erupt, and the workers scream in panic. Victor's submarine loses contact with the rig. When he looks through his telescope, he sees the monstrous creature destroying everything. He projects the live feed to the crew so everyone can see the enemy they're up against. A creature of unimaginable size and power. Once the rig is completely destroyed, the monster turns and begins chasing the submarine again. The senior officer, frustrated, takes command and orders 2 torpedoes to be fired. Both hit the target, and for a moment it seems the creature is dead. But then a terrified officer reports that the monster is still alive, angrier than before. Another torpedo is launched, but even that isn't enough. The Kraken charges at full speed, smashing the submarine with its massive tentacles. The submarine shakes violently. Equipment falls, alarms blare, and several crew members are injured. Victor hits his head and becomes dizzy. A computer falls onto another man, severely injuring him. The submarine begins to sink as fire breaks out in the missile chamber. The crew quickly seals off the section to stop the flames from spreading. 7 people stay behind to fight the fire, but the monster's repeated attacks make it worse. The radar now shows that the creature has surrounded them from all sides. Finally, they identify it. It's a Kraken, a legendary giant octopus from ancient sea myths. They only have 1 missile left, so Victor plans carefully. He orders the submarine to go into silent mode, explaining that marine creatures hunt using sound. To stay silent, the crew in the missile room stops using the fire extinguishers, allowing carbon dioxide and smoke to fill the air. The crew struggles to breathe, but Victor's plan works. The Kraken loses their trail and moves away. Once it's gone, they resume repairs, but the fire has spread too far. Flames engulf the room, and some men are burned alive. Victor orders everyone to abandon the burning section and seal it off. The surviving crew barely escapes as the door shuts behind them. After controlling the pressure, the fire finally dies down. The injured are treated in their rooms, and Julia helps the medics, earning the crew's trust. Later, Victor calls a meeting to ask what they should do next. Most of the crew wants to return home. They have no protection left against the Kraken. The senior officer reminds Victor that his father died a hero, saving others during a submarine accident. He urges Victor to act wisely and not throw more lives away. After thinking it over, Victor reluctantly agrees to turn back. As the submarine begins its return journey, he reads the last letter his father wrote. Julia visits him and shows a map marking all the places where she had seen the Kraken, including her old camp. She explains that, according to old stories, the Kraken had attacked ships in the past, but vanished for years. Scientists believed it had gone into a deep sleep. Julia believes that their underwater explosions may have disturbed the Kraken's hidden nest, waking it up from centuries of rest. She warns that if they keep using sonar, it will keep chasing them. Victor then asks her if she has any idea where his brother's submarine might be. Julia says that the Kraken usually drags its prey to its lair, and that lair is located near her old camp. Before they can continue, an officer rushes in, saying they've detected a faint signal, the sound of someone knocking on metal repeatedly. They track the sound and discover it's coming from the area near Julia's camp. It's clear some people from the missing submarine are still alive. Victor gathers his crew and says, "Our men are trapped between life and death. If we don't save them, who will? I'm not doing this just for my brother. I'd do the same for any one of you." And with that, the submarine sets course for the monster's lair, ready to face the darkness of the deep once again. After that, Victor ordered his crew to take the submarine toward Julia's camp, but suddenly bolts started coming out from the machine and walls. Glass panels and lights began to break everywhere. That meant the submarine had gone too deep into the water. Because of that, they immediately brought it a little higher. Then one of the officers noticed something strange. They had reached a completely different place. Victor then suggested sending out a small mini-submarine to explore this new area properly. But the pilot of that mini-sub was injured in the previous attack. So Victor said he would go himself, and he asked the senior officer to lead the main team until he returned. Soon, Victor left with 2 other officers in the mini-submarine. As they descended deeper and deeper into the water, strange metallic sounds echoed through the submarine because of the extreme pressure. It was the first time they had ever gone this deep. The pressure soon started to affect the submarine structure, so they had to find something quickly. Otherwise, they would have to turn back. Then, suddenly they heard a strange sound coming from somewhere. When they went in that direction, they were shocked to see thousands of sunken ships lying deep in the sea. That meant Julia's theories and stories were absolutely true. The Kraken had already attacked and destroyed many ships before. Finally, they found the other missing submarine. They checked its condition and saw that the front part was still completely fine. That meant some of the crew might still be alive inside. They tried to connect their mini-sub to the damaged submarine, but it was very difficult because of the intense pressure. Still, after a lot of effort, they managed to create a connection. Victor wore his diving suit and used that connection tunnel to enter the second submarine. When he opened the door, he was overjoyed. His brother Alexander and the whole crew were alive. He immediately informed the main submarine about it, and everyone there started celebrating happily. Now Victor sent as many people as possible back in the mini-sub, but since there were too many people, they had to make 2 trips to rescue everyone. So Victor decided to stay there with his brother Alexander until the next trip. He placed a tracker on the front of the submarine so that their location wouldn't be lost, but then he remembered the Kraken could also detect signals, so he immediately shut down the tracker to stay hidden. When the mini-sub left, the entire damaged submarine shook violently for a moment, but it didn't collapse. Soon, the mini-sub reached the main submarine, and the rescued people were given medical treatment. However, the pilot who had been driving the mini-sub was now in very bad condition and couldn't make another trip. Julia then asked her partner for help, since he had experience operating submarines. He agreed and prepared to go. But as soon as the mini-sub left again, the senior officer monitoring the radar noticed that the Kraken had started moving. It was active again. Meanwhile, Victor and Alexander were inside the damaged submarine, searching for the dangerous weapons their superiors had told them about. They went to the destroyed control room and retrieved a secret code from a safe. But when they entered the code into the computer, the system didn't respond. Victor didn't give up easily. He started pressing multiple buttons at once, and finally the computer came to life. However, they found out that the weapon couldn't be reused. Disappointed, Victor decided to return to the submarine. But just then, he realized something. The weapon was still operational. At the same time, the mini-sub detected the signal coming from those weapons and followed it straight to Victor's location. But in the main submarine, everyone was terrified because the Kraken had come dangerously close. The crew quickly descended the submarine to the lower part of the sea and switched it to silent mode to hide. The Kraken then picked up a massive rock and threw it at the submarine, damaging one side and causing water to start leaking inside. Panic spread among the crew. Meanwhile, the mini-sub reached Victor's location. But as it was approaching, the tracker accidentally turned on again. The Kraken, which was about to attack the main submarine, suddenly detected the tracker's signal and turned away, heading straight toward its cave. The senior officer immediately ordered the crew to use this chance to ascend to the surface. Meanwhile, Victor was trying to reach the mini-sub, which had shut down due to the Kraken's earlier attack. Alexander heard the sound of the mini-sub approaching, and he told his crew to leave while he stayed behind, waiting for Victor. Finally, Victor reached the weapons room and began entering the code into the missile system, while Alexander was coding something on the main computer. It took some time to load the weapons, and during that time, the Kraken found them. The two brothers were ready for the fight. As the Kraken's massive tentacles wrapped around the submarine, both brothers spoke to each other and apologized for their old fights. Suddenly, the Kraken tore half of the submarine apart, but luckily that section was already empty. The Kraken prepared to attack again, and that's when both brothers pressed the button together, firing the weapons. Water started flooding into the submarine, so Victor quickly ran back to find Alexander. But the weapon system was about to explode, so they both tried to escape as fast as possible. The submarine began sinking, and powerful waves flooded the corridors, separating the two brothers. Victor searched desperately and then saw Alexander's hand reaching out of the water. He grabbed his brother's hand and pulled him up with all his strength, finally saving him. Both brothers climbed up the stairs inside the submarine and sealed the door to stop up the water from coming in. There were only 2 minutes left before the explosion. But the mini-sub wasn't launching properly. As they were descending earlier, Victor noticed an emergency lever. He quickly pulled it, separating the mini-sub from the damaged submarine. Now it started moving upward rapidly. Explosions erupted behind them, and the shockwaves spun the mini-sub violently. In the main submarine, everyone was waiting anxiously for their return. Time passed, and their hopes began to fade. They thought both brothers had died. Everyone's faces were filled with sadness and regret. But then, bubbles began to appear in the water. It was the mini-sub, slowly rising to the surface. Everyone cheered with joy, realizing the brothers had survived. The whole crew celebrated their victory and praised Victor and Alexander for their bravery. Their mother, who had been waiting anxiously, finally saw her sons return alive. Overwhelmed with happiness, she hugged them tightly. The family reunited with tears of relief and joy. And with that, the story comes to an end. A tale of courage, brotherhood, and survival beneath the depths of the ocean.